Part 17. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 161. Chapter 161 Contact a Psychiatrist. Bang, Ye Wei slammed his chopsticks on the table and grimaced on the spot. This sudden move caught both of them by surprise. Yezikin's eyes were as bright as fire, and he looked at her with scrutiny and a slight sense of strangeness. Ye couldn't stand the look in his eyes, and the left fingers on her left knee tightened more and more. While the atmosphere was solemn, Yezikin's cell phone vibrated on the table. Ye's only gaze was looking for the sound, but Yezikin's eyes didn't leave her for even a moment, and he even said to her without any scruples, "Answer the phone for me." Everyone knows each other's password, and it doesn't matter if they use it as their own mobile phones. Helping Yezikin answer the phone is something that is familiar once and twice. Ye Wei happened to go down the steps and took a closer look at his cell phone. It turned out to be Su Tangzi calling. She answered the call and said hello first. Hello. The person on the other end was silent for a moment, as if Su Tangzi was wondering, "Sorry, I may have dialed the wrong number." "Wait," Ye Wei hurriedly announced her name, "Sister Su, I am Yu Yi." Oh, Su Tangzi seemed to have just come to his senses and asked where Yezikin was. Ye Wei raised his eyes and glanced at the calm man opposite, who was holding a small white porcelain bowl for soup. He didn't hand the phone back, but asked casually, "Brother is here, is there anything wrong with Sister Su?" "He's with you, why doesn't he answer the phone?" Ye Wei put on an innocent face and explained, "Brother asked me to help him pick up." She just chose to be an obedient child and did not answer the phone randomly on purpose. "Then do you have anything going on now?" "Well, I'm eating. We made an appointment to play a game together before." Ask him why he broke the appointment. Su Tangzi suddenly became angry. The only thing Ye did was make a move, and finally he was willing to return the phone. I don't know what Su Tangzi said to Yezikin after that, but Yezikin only replied, "I won't fight today." Ye Wei was in a mood. She guessed that Yezikin's missing appointment had something to do with her, but he never mentioned it. Not long after, Ye Wei also received a text message from Nangong Luo, roaring and begging, "Sister Wei, please persuade the boss to come to the game." Since it was Nangong Luo who asked for help, she would naturally not refuse. But even if she said it this time, Yezikin still refused without hesitation. After getting annoyed by his teammates, he told them directly, "I have a cold and I don't want to go out." Cough, cough, cough. Ye Wei, who had just swallowed a round, almost choked. Hearing that Yezikin was ill, Nangong Luo and other teammates had to give up. As a concerned friend, Nangong Luo suddenly made a voice message with great interest to invite Ye Wei to play black. "What, brother Nangong wants to take me to play games?" "Of course." "No, don't. She has never been interested in games. She knows nothing about it, so she must be a fighter in the scraps of her hands." However, Nangong Luo did not give up. He had a long talk with Ye Wei about the history of Yezikin's gaming struggles. Ye Wei listened very attentively. After finishing, she walked up to Yezikin, put her hands on her chin, and prayed with bright eyes, "Brother Chen, can I play a game with Brother Nangong for a while?" Her expression was joyful, her eyes were pure, and she seemed to have forgotten what she had just done. Yezikin raised his eyebrows and agreed, "Okay." Ye Wei happily held his mobile phone to register a Xiaobai account. Yezikin's calm eyes suddenly turned cold and serious. He dialed Gu Jinxi's number. "Contact me, an authoritative psychiatrist." "What's your taste? Let Kixie write about sadomasochism again?" End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 162. Chapter 162 Playing games with a girl and kissing her on the bench. Ye Wei opened a small white account and opened a black account with Nangong Luo. After being invited in, he found that there were already 3 of them in a team. Ye Wei followed Nangong Luo's voice tutorial to choose a hero, and the stranger who matched him sent a text saying jungle. Ye Wei didn't understand their professional terminology, so he just followed Nangong Luo's instructions silently. The enemy has 5 seconds to arrive on the battlefield. Hearing the system voice, Ye was inexplicably nervous. My only sister, you will follow me soon. Which direction? Middle, just play around. Yayoi is a newbie, and there is another one who doesn't know the technology, but Nangong Luo, Mi Kexing, who is disguised as a woman, and Gu Li, the red-haired Shota, are very stable in their operations. Nangong Luban is very good at shouting only sister, and Mi Kexing and Gu Li complained wildly. Gu Li, representative of primary school students, said, I want to record and send it to the boss to see if he doesn't beat you to death. Mi Kexing scratched her wavy wig and said, recorded. They are acquaintances, so they naturally have a good time. But the matching strangers were not satisfied. Ye Wei died many times due to improper operation. At the beginning, he was beaten to low health by the tower. The stranger who was randomly matched started to curse in plain words. Because the system was sensitive to words, he actually yelled directly with his voice. He is a rough man, with a bad temper, and he speaks vulgar words. Novices who play games are not confident in their own skills, which can easily cause psychological shadow to them. Ye Wei felt extremely ashamed after being scolded. She apologized muffledly in the group, I'm sorry. Because she was scolded, she did not dare to step forward, even if she followed Nangong Luo, she was still some distance away. The man on the opposite side started to curse again, what the are you doing, and at asterisk. The scolding was unpleasant. Ye Wei has never heard such vulgar curses before, and the target was himself. She simply turned off the playback and refused to listen. However, Yezikin listened to the scolding just now. Bring it. Yezikin reached out and asked her for her cell phone. Ye Wei took his hands off the screen and offered them up obediently. Yezikin stood tall, with one leg straight against the wall and one leg slightly folded. He was wearing a long, slim-fitting gray coat, making his whole body handsome and upright. Ye Wei walked up to him and saw that he was operating the game very quickly. He could kill a person with full health in seconds, and the number of kills increased rapidly. He pushed 2 towers in a row, and Nangong Luo and the others only forced the high ground. Ye Wei could still vaguely hear the person who just cursed mutter in disbelief, damn, this is a chicken blood. Seeing the enemy's avatars all black, Ye Wei became nervous because they were about to push down the tower. The tone of that person was much more cheerful, but the language was still vulgar, but the curses were directed at the other person. Seeing that the tower was about to be pushed down, Yezikin suddenly led Nangong Luo and others back to the camp. Grumpy man, brother, what are you doing? No matter how the man scolded him, Yezikin and the others just ignored him. Every time he wants to push the tower, he releases the water again, and the grumpy man loses his temper. He wanted to win, but Yezikin wouldn't let him win. What the hell, push the tower, the grumpy man began to curse again. The next second, the tower was pushed. It's not that they push others, but that others push them. The irritable man's mentality is explosive. During the settlement, the participation rate in the group was not high, and he was reported in turn. Yezikin finished the game and turned his head to find the little girl staring at him with bright eyes. Brother Chen, don't move. Ye Wei bent over and brought the low stool at the corner of the bed to Yezikin's side, and stepped on it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 163. Chapter 163 Take her to see a doctor. Ye Wei stepped on the bench, grabbed Yezikin's collar, and was about to get closer. However, the next second, her feet trembled and stepped on the edge of the bench. The bench was unevenly weighted, and her whole body swayed and she fell back. Yezikin leaned forward and hooked Ye Wei's waist with his lightning-fast body. Because there was a bench across the bench, he and Yezikin were pulled over, and used as a cushion. Ye Wei took a breath and stared at him nervously with wide eyes. Ouch, this was a solid fall. The pain she felt after she realized it was so painful that she almost burst into tears. There was no strange atmosphere, it was just that her small body could not bear the weight and she was almost knocked to the ground. Yezikin turned over and pulled the person up, and asked nervously and concernedly, "Where does it hurt?" Looking in the direction of the bend of Ye Wei's arm, Yezikin instantly choked the words he was about to blurt out. "Where does it hurt?" Ye Wei put his palms against his chest and frowned tightly, as if he was really miserable. "Does it hurt?" Yezikin's eyes were calm and he could not see any other emotions or thoughts. Ye Wei was so thin-skinned that his face turned red. He just turned his back to Yezikin and said in a weak voice, "It's not bad. It's just that I couldn't bear it at the moment of being hit, so I'll be fine if I take it easy for a while." I thought this topic should end, but Yezikin picked up his hands, leaned back slightly against the wall, and said jokingly, "What are you covering? What can you cover?" Ye Wei suddenly swallowed his breath. "I didn't expect my brother to see her like this. Do you despise her figure so much?" She raised her chest and raised her head and retorted unconvinced, "I just grow slowly." Yezikin raised his eyebrows, as if following her words, "Oh, he just grows slowly. Brother, can you please stop discussing this kind of topic with girls, will this make people very shy?" Yezikin's bright eyes glanced at her slender forehead and back, a slight smile escaped from the corner of his mouth, and he joked, "It's really sad. Now I just want to grow up. I just care a few words and I can't bear to respond." Ye Wei covered her ears and stamped her feet, "It's not the same thing at all. Okay, I won't tease you, I have something to deal with in the afternoon, so be good and stay at home to rest. Can't you take me with you? It's boring. If you're bored, let Nangong Luo take you to play games." The implication was that he refused to take her with him. Ye is only clingy, but she still knows the right time. Since Yezikin refused like this, she let go, but when Yezikin was about to step out of the door, she chased after him, looked at him eagerly and asked, "Brother Chen, will you have dinner with me?" Afraid that he would disagree, I even added a special sentence, "I cook it myself." "You need rest." Ye Wei raised his chin and narrowed his eyes slightly, "Then you will cook it yourself." "Good." Yezikin patted her head and laughed. But I didn't know that Yezikin went straight to the hospital after going out. Guchensi was very efficient and found an authoritative psychiatrist. Yezikin roughly described Ye Wei's situation. The doctor temporarily made a one-sided judgment. The patient usually feels guilty and nervous when lying, which is manifested in slow speech or evasive eyes. But according to your description, her reaction was natural at that time. It's possible that she felt that she was doing the right thing. However, for a person who has been quiet for a long time, that is definitely not normal. "Mr. Ye, I hope to meet the patient in person. Guess Brother Chen will ask the doctor to see Xiao Lingdang. Are you all on holiday today? Why don't you see anyone holding up their chins? You have 3 days off for Chinese Valentine's Day. How about you?" End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 164. Chapter 164 Birthday Party. Ye Wei, who had been off for a few days due to illness, finally returned to school and was in a good mood. Enruan suddenly lay down next to her and asked, "Xiao Li, why don't you let me visit you?" "Well, That's not very convenient. Ye Wei did not say it clearly. Of course she welcomed friends to visit, but this would not include friends who coveted Yezikin. However, Ye Wei now only feels that Enruan's actions dissatisfied her, but she doesn't think Enruan is bad, so she is willing to continue to be friends with Enruan. Suddenly something occurred to her. She reached out and groped in the drawer, took out a pink and white box and pushed it to Enruan's table. Ruan, I'll give you a pastry to make amends. When Enruan saw the exquisite packaging, he subconsciously said, pastries, these look expensive, right? This. Enruan suddenly remembered, you were staying in the VIP ward before. You lied to me and said your family had no money. I really don't have any money. At this point, Ye Wei organized some conversation and told Enruan what he said about the adopted daughter of the Ye family. The more complicated grievances were carefully concealed by her. Enruan suddenly realized, no wonder your friend calls you Wei. It turns out that your name is Ye Wei. Don't mention it again, I have my own name, Qiaolian. It's not that I don't like Wei, but I don't want to be given the surname Ye before I find out the truth. Enruan's only reaction when he saw Ye was to laugh, but he had other thoughts in his heart. It doesn't matter whether Ye Wei has money or not. Since Yezikin is a young master from a wealthy family, she should like him even more. A rich and handsome man, he is simply the best choice for a boyfriend, bar none. Enruan put away the cakes politely, took out his mobile phone to take pictures, and then sent them to his own space to show off. Someone recognized that it was a high-end brand and posted a price underneath. Enruan himself also searched on Baidu, but he didn't expect that a box as big as 2 palms would cost 4 figures. It seems that I have underestimated the Ye family's strength. The more he thinks like this, the stronger Enruan's purpose is in chasing Yezikin. After finishing a piece of pastry, she felt endless aftertaste. She turned to Ye Wei and said, thank you. It doesn't matter, as long as you like it. Yezikin bought it for her. She didn't ask about the price. She just wanted to thank Enruan for his usual help, so she brought the cakes as a gift. Enruan felt a little jealous when he saw her nonchalant look. Obviously she was orphaned when she was a child and was lucky enough to be adopted as an adopted daughter by the Ye family. She must have been kicked out when she grew up, but Yezikin still loved her as a biological sister and bought her so many good things. Enruan felt that if he spent more time with Yezikin, he would definitely treat him differently. Enruan estimated that her birthday was approaching, so she went home and asked her parents to hold a birthday party for her. Enruan's family is not a wealthy one, but it is more than enough to prepare some delicious food at home and invite friends to have a happy gathering. After her parents agreed, she first invited Ye Wei, Xiaolian, it's my birthday next weekend, so you can come to my house. It's your birthday. Ye Wei thought for a while and expressed his doubts, I remember you seemed to be a month away. Enruan smiled awkwardly, oh, my parents were busy at that time, so they organized it for me in advance. You can come to celebrate my birthday on the weekend. There are a lot of people at the birthday party. Not many, just a few good players in the class, and you. Oh, okay then. Seeing that Ye only agreed, Enruan smiled proudly. As long as Ye comes, her plan will go perfectly. I heard that some people don't have 3 days off. It's very pitiful. I'd like to rub my head and give you some comfort. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 165. Chapter 165. Pour her wine. Time flies, and it's Enruan's birthday in the blink of an eye. Since he was going to Enruan's house, Ye Wei reported to Yezikin in advance and asked for leave from Master Shirley. I've been to Enruan's house once before, but this time I knew the way and didn't ask Enruan to pick me up. She stood at the door and knocked on the door. She found that the door was slightly open, so she pushed it open and entered. She had no idea that when she entered, the people waiting at the door suddenly opened their flower tubes with colorful ribbons. With a bang sound, those pieces of colorful roll paper floated all over Ye Wei's body. The classmate who caused the trouble, "Oh my God, why is it you?" The words, the tone seemed like she shouldn't be there. Ye Wei realized that his appearance seemed to have disrupted other people's plans. He quickly lowered his head and apologized softly, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were." She had never had these things at any birthday party she had attended before. In short, it was the first time for her to be stared at by so many unfamiliar classmates, and it was very stressful. "Sorry." Ye stood there helplessly and let others look at her. The little girl is wearing a white dress today with a pink coat on top. There are two small white plush hanging from the sleeves, which is very cute. Looking at her cute expression, her face turned red due to nervousness, just like an apple, and she really wanted to take a bite. "Hey, you're blocking the light and why don't you come in?" Suyuchan suddenly spoke up to relieve Ye Wei. Suddenly a burst of laughter broke out from the crowd. "Student Jiao turns out to be so cute." "Yeah, I usually wear baggy school uniforms that completely cover me up, but when I dressed up today, I saw that student Jiao is really petite and cute." Ye was only surprised by their reactions. She could tell that what these people said was not sarcasm, but sincere praise for her. As if he suddenly figured something out, Ye Wei stood at the door holding a gift and smiled sweetly at everyone. "Thank you. I'm back." And Ruan pushed the door open and walked out, only to find that the door was covered with garland and shredded paper. After questioning, I found out that Ye Wei had been tricked by a friend on his behalf. And Ruan patted Ye Wei on the shoulder and laughed, "Ha ha ha, Xyli, you are so pitiful." Ye Wei smiled, handed the gift to Enruan, and said, "Happy birthday." Enruan was very happy when she got the gift, but when she took it to put it away, she opened the bag and took a look, and found that the packaging inside seemed ordinary, and she frowned. Friends coaxed Enruan to make a wish and share the cake. Enruan then returned to the crowd. When dividing the cake, Enruan took some fruit wine and said, "My parents brought this back from other places. It's delicious. Some junior high school students have never been exposed to it." Enruan said, "It's not intoxicating." She took 2 bottles and poured them for them herself, and finally handed them to Ye Wei. Xiao Liao came to Kang and tasted it. "It tastes very good." Ye Wei saw that everyone was full of praise after drinking, so he also picked up the cup and said, Let me try it." She had a drink. It tasted really good. It was a little heavier than the drink, but not irritating. Enruan stood next to her, passing one glass after another. Ye Wei's face turned slightly red after drinking 3 glasses. "I still won't drink anymore." "It's okay, I won't get drunk, today is my birthday, why don't you give me some face?" "Well, okay then." Ye couldn't refuse, so he drank 1 cup after another and fell directly on the sofa. Enruan lowered his head and smiled. He caught a glimpse of Suyuchan, who was playing with his mobile phone, and said, "Yuchan, please help me take care of you. I took care of you all morning last time. You are still wondering whether Enruan is good or bad, so what do you think is Enruan's intention in pouring wine on Yuyi right now?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 166. Chapter 166. Go to the room and find your brother. Enruan helped Ye Wei to Suyuchan's side. Suyuchan paused with his finger on the phone screen, glanced at the blushing little girl next to him, and frowned. "Why are you drunk?" "I don't know, obviously everyone else is fine after drinking the fruit wine, Maybe it's because Xylee has a special constitution. Enruan explained it casually. Suyuchin raised his head and looked at Enruan. He said and did nothing, but his indifferent eyes made Enruan feel nervous as if his conspiracy had been seen through. Enruan knew that Suyuchin was thoughtful, so he didn't bother with him too much. He turned back to the crowd, said a few words to other friends and then walked to the room alone. Suyuchin glanced at Yewei who was lying next to him, raised his eyebrows, silently returned his eyes to his mobile phone, and continued his game. The only thing she wouldn't do when she was drunk was that she was feeling dizzy and didn't want to say anything. However, even in this lively environment, she still felt that she was alone, and she was a little scared to be alone. Suyuchin didn't pay attention at first, until the hem of his coat was pulled by someone. Suyuchin took a quick look and saw his hands, which had always been white and tender. Her skin is very good, as white and delicate as a baby, but her hands are very beautiful, not as round as her face, but slender and delicate. Yewei rubbed his eyes and whispered in his mouth. "Brother, brother." Her voice was as soft as a human being's, and she was shouting in a daze. It was so soft that it was sweet to people's hearts. Boom dash. Suyuchin's cell phone slipped from the edge of the sofa. He immediately picked up the cell phone on the ground and cursed. Suyuchin suddenly felt agitated. "I feel sick when I think about how I appreciated the night scene for so long just now. She is obviously an ordinary girl who doesn't know what to do, so why should he care about her? Anyway, Yewei disdains him to repay her kindness. Suyuchin has an aloof temper." In order to prove his only contempt for Ye, he picked up his mobile phone and changed his position. Enruan, who had just come out of the room, saw Suyuchin's actions, glanced at Yewei who was still reclining on the sofa, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. She took 2 quick steps and walked to Yewei's side, helped him up, and said with concern, "Xiaoli, go to my room and rest for a while." Yewei opened his eyes with blurred eyes and shook his head at Enruan. "No, I won't go." Just when Enruan was about to coax again, she heard Yewei stuttering out some words, looking for brother. "Okay, come find your brother." Enruan's smile grew bigger. "Your brother asked you to go to your room to rest first. He will pick you up soon." "Well, rest, brother will pick up." Following Enruan's words, she is as easy to coax as a child now. Yewei was willing to cooperate. Enruan helped her into the room and reluctantly let her lie down on his bed. After finishing all this, Enruan clapped his hands and said, "It's really easy for you. I usually don't let people enter the room. Girls generally don't like others entering their rooms, and Enruan is certainly the same." However, for her own purposes, she not only wanted to break up and let Yewei lie down, but also let her sleep here tonight. Scent. A whistle came from the wide-open window. Enruan ran to the window and stuck her head out to look out. The bright car lights made her eyes light up. Enruan stood in front of the mirror, straightened her clothes again, and then ran out happily. Yesterday someone mentioned giving CP names to Brother Chen and Little Lingdang. The Kaibao people brainstormed and thought about it. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 167. Chapter 167 The Cost of Hurting Her. Enruan's family was busy until Yezikin arrived. "Brother Ye, you are finally here." Enruan followed Yezikin and greeted him as if he was very familiar. Everyone else whispered, "Enruan actually knows such a handsome man. It looks so impressive. Is this a relative of Enruan? He looks so good looking, just like the one on TV." Yezikin became the focus of everyone again. But he did not squint and was not affected at all. Even in a messy environment, he still had a unique temperament that was independent of the world. "Today is my birthday, so all my friends came to my house to celebrate my birthday," Enruan explained to Yezikin with a smile, with anticipation in his eyes. and Ruan is looking forward to Yezikin saying to her gently, "Happy birthday," after hearing her words. At this time, Yezikin finally turned his attention to her, his dark eyes as dark as night, and a sentence escaped from his thin lips, "Where is she?" En Ruan Wadu, I didn't expect Yezikin to be so disrespectful. But when there were so many people, she could only pretend not to know. She rubbed her fingers on her palms and smiled awkwardly. "I was resting in my room and fell asleep." After saying just one sentence, En Ruan quickly brought a piece of birthday cake with the letters En Ruan written on it that he had deliberately kept in front of him, with hope in his eyes. "Since brother Ye is here, why not just eat a piece of cake? I don't like sweet things. Let's drink the fruit bar." En Ruan put down the cake and hurriedly handed over the fruit wine, and specially introduced, "This fruit wine was brought back by my parents from other places. It is very sweet. Need not." The rejection was straightforward and decisive, without any emotion. In just a moment, Yezikin took in everything in the living room. These people have all had cups filled with fruit wine in front of them. Even if they have drunk all the wine, there are still some traces of color left in the transparent cups. There were many empty bottles of fruit wine beside the table, indicating that these people drank a lot. The ratio of male students to female students here is about 1:3. These people drank wine, but they were not drunk at all. It was the only time they drank at night, and they were drunk to the point of unconsciousness. Lead the way. After being born again, Yezikin's tone was as cold as ice, without any warmth. En Ruan was stunned for a moment, and wanted to change the topic to delay the conversation, but when she met Yezikin's sharp gaze, she suddenly had nothing to say. Yezikin's expression obviously didn't change, but the look in his eyes revealed everything. En Ruan didn't expect Yezikin to be so ungentlemanly, and was even more afraid that Yezikin would lose face in public. Okay, I'll take you to see it," En Ruan compromised. She took Yezikin to her room. As soon as she opened the door, she felt a cool breeze coming towards her. Yezikin walked in with a dark face and saw the petite body of the man huddled up in a ball on the bed. He was trembling slightly because he was obviously cold. There is a neat quilt folded beside the bed. In this winter season, En Ruan brought people in without covering them with quilts and opened the windows wide. En Ruan didn't know Yezikin's heart. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Ye Wei squinting his eyes and not waking up. There was even a flash of smile in his eyes. Boom. At this time, the window was closed heavily. En Ruan was startled and said cautiously, "Brother Ye, I just said she was asleep. It's not a good idea to disturb her now." Yezikin touched Ye Wei's cold hand and rubbed it twice. "En Ruan, do you know the cost of hurting her? Little bitch, do you know the cost of hurting little Belle? Do you want Brother Chen to do it or Xiao Lingdang to do it on her own?" End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 168. Chapter 168. Don't come near her again. Brother Ye, I don't know what you mean. Xiaoli is just drunk, she is fine. En Ruan, don't be too confident in your disguise. Don't get close to Xiaoli again from now on. En Ruan fell down on the cold floor, his whole heart filled with anxiety. He knows. Her thought-perfect plan was nowhere to be seen in Yezikin's dark eyes. Some people don't need to explain themselves with words at all, just their eye movements reveal everything. The ferocious look in Yezikin's eyes made En Ruan panic. Yezikin took off his coat and wrapped it around Ye Wei's whole body. The little girl who was still asleep seemed to have a sense of familiarity, and subconsciously called him, "Brother." Yezikin didn't respond, but tightened his fingers slightly. Just when he was about to walk out of the bedroom door with Ye Wei in his arms, En Ruan suddenly got up from the ground and grabbed Yezikin's arm, asking unwillingly, "Since you know that I have other purposes, why don't you just start from the same place, remind her from the beginning?" En Ruan sneered, "If you really valued her so much, you wouldn't be willing to make her sad. Yezikin turned sideways and shook it off, as if he had touched something dirty. You, Yezikin glanced at her contemptuously, you are just a lesson to her for trusting others easily. Haha, you told me not to get close to her? She regards me as her best friend. What if she wants to come to me? After all, Enruan is too young and has never experienced strong winds and waves. Now he is a little irritated and starts to break things. Yezikin sneered and did not answer Enruan's question directly. He slowly said, I'll say it again, you are not allowed to approach Jiao Li again. Otherwise. A deep voice reached Enruan's ears. Enruan watched helplessly as the tall figure faded away. The strong wind outside the window suddenly blew open the unclosed window door again. Enruan clutched his heart, where there was still a sense of panic that had not subsided. Her mind only echoed the last words Yezikin said to her, that red-faced threat. What is this, what is this? A surge of anger rushed into her heart, and Enruan angrily smashed the gift that Ye Wei had given her. The box was wrapped with something unknown, so Enruan picked up the scissors and cut it open randomly. The packaging box looked ordinary, but she didn't expect that it contained her favorite anime character figurine. There was also a piece of cardboard that she had cut into pieces, and what caught her eye was a sentence written in beautiful handwriting. Happy birthday Ruan Ruan, I bought the figure with my own New Year's money, and I packaged the box myself. I hope you like it when you receive the gift. Simple words, including Ye Wei's sincerity towards his friends. Enruan couldn't laugh or cry. She couldn't find words to describe her current mood. What are you pretending to be? The only time Ming Minjai betrayed her was to avoid being harassed by Ye Qingqing. At that time, Su Yuchen told her in advance and she contacted the police to make preparations. As for Ye Ziwei's explanations, she didn't believe them at all. She didn't break it out to Ye Yi at that time, but she just wanted to get to know Yezikin through Ye Yi. She has done so many things just to win over Ye Wei, but what about now? As if everything has become a joke. There is also the threat from Yezikin. Why, it was obvious that she had not harmed anyone, but everything she did would be denied. Enruan was unwilling to give in. She opened her mobile phone and played a loop of a short video of Ye Wei actively reaching out to pull Su Yuchen. Oh, now you know that Enruan is a bad guy, right? The bad thing is obvious. Guess what she wanted to do by deliberately filming the video? Regarding Brother Chen and Xiao Lingdang, are they called the Ling Chen couple? Or morning exercise couple? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 169. Chapter 169. I want a little bell, super sweet. Perhaps it was because of the familiar embrace that Ye Wei was clinging tightly to her. When she was carried out, she was hit by the biting cold wind. She shook and woke up. Brother, pick up. What to pick up? Take, little bell, cluck. She raised her arm to shake the bell on her wrist as usual, but found that she couldn't hear the sound. The night is not clear now. The scenes in her sight are hazy. She can't hear the sound. She purses her pink lips in frustration and says, my bell has no sound. Yezikin. There is no sound. His tone was as if he was shouting a jelly bean in his mouth. Yezikin still didn't respond to her. Ye Wei felt even more aggrieved when she received no response. She stretched out her lotus-like hands and hugged Yezikin's neck tightly, and shouted loudly, brother. She began to twist in Yezikin's arms. Yezikin bent down and put her down directly, but he still held her firmly with both hands. Ye Yi was even more wanton with her feet on the ground. She needed to raise her arms very high to hug her neck. She simply grabbed the clothes around Yezikin's waist and stamped her feet while tugging, brother. My bell has no sound. No sound. Yezikin sighed and held his forehead, feeling angry and helpless. He stretched out his hand and flicked her forehead lightly, and the words in his mouth were quite endearing, "You little fool, you are so drunk." Kayui I couldn't understand it at this time. She heard Yezikin's gentle voice, which invisibly made her bolder. She only dragged Yezikin to ask for the bell. "Brother, I want a bell, I want a small bell." "No." "Yes." "Brother, yes." She was so sure that a pot could hang on her raised mouth. Yezikin raised his heroic eyebrows and said, "I won't give it to you." After being drunk, Yui became even more obsessed. His dexterous fingers first pulled at his clothes, then at his collar, and finally acted wildly on his face. "Don't forget to be cute and coquettish, give it to me, brother, give it to me." She just opened her eyes and stared, her watery eyes seemed to be filled with shining stars. Facing her like this, how could he not surrender? Yezikin lowered his head slightly, rested his chin on her raised forehead, and parted his lips. "The little bell is right here." Where, as soon as Yui heard this, he subconsciously lowered his head and stared at the ground. He turned around and looked around but couldn't find it. She asked in confusion, "Where is the little bell?" Yezikin raised her head and leaned back slightly, and gently pinched the tip of her nose. Her heart was already so soft. The cold face faded away, and a wonderful smile bloomed on the handsome and elegant face. He opened his thin lips and coaxed her with a beautiful voice, "Here he is. His little bell is right in front of you." Yui was stunned because she didn't understand why Yezikin suddenly remembered it. But when she saw the person she liked happy, she giggled stupidly. She was seduced by the seductive man, and in a blink of an eye she forgot about looking for the bell. "I was so drunk that I didn't even know I was being sold." After all, he was unwilling to let her blow in the cool night breeze for too long, so Yezikin led her into the car. Yui was still confused, but she always followed Yezikin, acting so well behaved. After she got in the car, she closed the car door with a bang. "You little fool, don't be fooled again. I probably ate too much sweets on Chinese Valentine's Day today. Isn't this chapter super sweet? Kaibao, do you like this sweet chapter? Choose one, Chen Chen couple or Lingzi couple." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 170. Chapter 170 video sent by Enruan. The only time she was awake at night, she found that she was not in the room or the bed. What is being poured into her mouth? Yui reached out to push him away, but someone held the back of his head and prevented him from moving. She raised her eyelids with difficulty, and her eyes met another line of sight. "Woke up." The man patted her on the head and took a step away. Yui was finally liberated. Seeing clearly that the person in front of him was Yezikin, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yui glanced at the celadone bowl in Yezikin's hand, rubbed his head, and asked, "What is that?" "Sobering up soup," Yezikin responded, "neither salty nor bland." Yui suddenly opened his eyes and slapped his forehead. "Sobering up soup? Am I drunk?" She has no memory of what happened before. Yezikin smiled and said nothing. He took the bowl in his hand to the kitchen and washed it. He did this slowly, as if he was enjoying it. But Yui, who didn't get the answer, couldn't wait any longer. He went to the kitchen and asked, "Am I drunk? Brother Chen, did you go to pick me up?" "No." "Huh?" Yui's eyes widened. Looking at her big, watery eyes, Yezikin twitched the corner of his mouth and said, "I picked you up at the gate." "What?" "I actually walked back by myself." I have no impression at all. If this was the case, Yui suddenly wanted to show off his wit. Yezikin finally couldn't listen anymore. He put down the porcelain bowl and glanced at her, his dark eyes dark and calm. Where do you get your confidence from? You think you can come back safely? Brother Chen. Ye Wei shouted weakly. He didn't know what he had done, but he felt guilty subconsciously. I just remember drinking fruit wine at Ruan's house. Ruan said I wouldn't get drunk. Maybe I'm not suitable for drinking. The further she went on to explain, the lower her voice became. Yezikin stepped forward, his tall figure shrouding Ye Wei's upper body. She subconsciously wanted to raise her head, but was held down by someone. Then, a cold voice came from the top of her head, and he said, in the future, don't interact with Ruan again. Why? Is it because I'm drunk? Ruan gave us fruit wine to drink. Maybe I get drunk easily, but the other classmates don't seem to be drunk. It's not Ruan's fault. Well, why are you drunk if you know no one else is drunk? Seems to be the truth, but Ruan is my best friend in number 2 middle school. Really, you think so? Being stared at by Yezikin's sharp gaze, Ye Wei lowered his eyes unconsciously, his long curled eyelashes trembled, and asked in a soft voice, isn't it, shouldn't it? Anyway, I have warned Ruan not to approach you again. If you are still reluctant to make that false sacrifice, you can choose to continue to pretend to be confused. Brother, she is the first girl besides Li Yulai who takes the initiative to be nice to me. While the conversation between the two was tense, a message suddenly popped up on Ye Wei's mobile phone connected to the internet. To cover up the embarrassment, she picked up her phone and looked at it. It was a message from Ruan. Just talking about this person, this is. Ye Wei bit her lip and opened it to see a short video. The video that has not been clicked is the environment at Ruan's home. She was a little curious about what video Ruan would send her. Ye Wei glanced at Yezikin cautiously, and pointed with trembling fingers. End of this chapter.